So
Hello
we're ready.
everyone. Welcome to our webinar with Lives. My name's Emily and I'm the marketing manager for Owagen. We are a Salesforce partner and we're based in Nottingham. And today I'm going to be having a little chat with Ian Tomlinson, who is he's a mental health first aid trainer for Lives. And Lives are one of our customers, which is how we know them. And they also came to give us a half-day first aid training course a couple of months ago. And that was with Ian himself, and he led such a positive and thoughtful conversation about improving mental health in the workplace. And I remember we were talking about all of our stress signatures and what makes us anxious, and how to tell when we're stressed out and what our coping strategies are. And we came away feeling like we could have much more open conversations at work, and it was really great. So yeah, I just wanted to give a bit of context. With the live Q&A, you should have a chat box that you should be able to see on your screen, and you can start asking Ian any questions you might have throughout the webinar. He'll try and answer as many as he can towards the end, but what we'll do is, if there are more questions that we can answer, we're going to create a article after the event answering them for you. We're also going to be providing a list of online resources signposted by Lives to help you during this time. So to get sent these and the article, just pop your email into the form on the web page that we've posted into the chat. If you can't see that, just send me a question and I'll send it back to you, send the link to you. So, hello Ian, how are you doing?
Hi Emily. Yes,
Would you like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Lives, what you do?
Limes is a voluntary organisation based in Lincolnshire. It's known as Lincolnshire's Integrated Voluntary Emergency Service, or Lives really. It's much easier to say that, isn't it? It's a bit of a mouthful. But basically, we're a charity that's been going for 50 years this year. I've been involved for 3 years, and the predominant function of our charity is to provide emergency response to our community of Lincolnshire. We're the second largest county in the country, so when the 999 call is made, getting a resource to that person, to that need, to that incident is vital, as we know anywhere, but obviously we're a bit spread out. So that's how it all started all those years ago with a group of GPs, and it's just grown and grown from there. So the responder scheme has been around since '92, and we're currently running at about 500 members, thereabouts. They're very particularly active, and within that, obviously those who both do fundraising and responding, and those who just respond. So we're charity now, so we are in need of funds and streams, etc. So one of our things we do internally is provide training, and externally we provide training. So both for obviously troops around first aid training, pre-hospital care, which is our main function as an organisation, but for all the other organisations. And most recently, last summer, I did my training with Mental Health First Aid England as to be an instructor, so we could add on to that added support around mental health as well, because even though it sounds like there's a link between mental health first aid and first aid, it's not the same, but it actually is something that you can build the two together and part of that whole safe environment that you work in. So I came over to work with you because you're supporting with us with our technology as well. So it was great to spend time and talk about just getting that conversation going, as you said, around mental health.
Oh, and then COVID-19 came along.
Yes. and now we're working from home, and here's my puppy's pictures in the background, just behind my head, and your flowers and plants in the window.
Well, we're all from home, working from home now. So what now? I mean, now people are working from home. They're also homeschooling as well. Some are being furloughed, some have lost work, some are living on their own. So what might people be feeling right now, and what can we do to sort of look after ourselves and others during this time? I mean, it's a big question. I don't expect you to have all the answers.
And in the context, and is that it is such a major change for some people. Within my role, working at home isn't unusual. We are allowed to do that. I live 25 miles away from work, so it makes a difference in my day. If I don't do that, it gives me, sometimes I'm more productive, sometimes I need the 25 minutes to clear your head and process things. My wife does the same, so it's a major change though for many people. And the other thing I particularly, and in the context of both our conversations and my family as well and work colleagues, is that we all have families that have on members of families with young children as well. So the impact of or old or sick secondary children. So it's that routine gets changed, doesn't it? You know, and that's that for all of us. If you've done it for 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 25 years, the change of a routine upsets our time clock and everything, doesn't it? And that is a major impact before your own add to that anxiety or worries or what's going to go on, or lots of questions you want asking answering as well. So, and as you say about the people who live alone, I think that's a real challenge. Even more so, they like their space. My daughter lives on her own currently with her job. You know, she started a new job last summer, and she works in radiotherapy. And it's just for her that space is really important to go home back to a nice space that just it's part of the mechanism of looking after yourself. But actually, then you add the COVID to it, and that adds a different dimension to that. So, being connected, like like being able to do this is really quite important.
Yeah, I always enjoyed working from home, but you know, it's better when you have the choice, isn't it? If you have the choice to either work from home or not. And yeah, I think losing that choice is the difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the important thing is that, you know, what the media have done, everything, is that there are lots of resources out there. So we'll, as we've said, we'll share those at the end of the session, won't we? And people can have that. And it's just a very tiny tip of the iceberg of the library and plethora of just resources that exist out there. We're just signposting some of them, you know, that are out there.
It's great how people have pulled together to pull all these resources together and help each other. And we're just making sure that, you know, we're keeping in contact and, you know, having chats that are outside of work chats as well. So we used to always have lunch on our lunchtime table in the office, and we've sort of kept that as an option. At lunchtime, you can join a video chat, and it's sort of strictly, it's not work. You can just chat about whatever, and it's completely optional. And we also have Friday drinks as well, so we always meet up on Fridays. And I think it's important to, because when you're working from home, you do lose that when you come in and say, hey, how was your weekend, kind of thing. Sometimes it's just you talk to people and it's just work related. So yeah, I think it's important to keep.
Yeah, I think you hit a very important part of that, is that feeling of detachment from your team. But some people are self-employed and perhaps work on their own, or self-employed and work with several other self-employed, you know, guys and girls, as it were. My son's partner's dad's a builder, and he has other colleagues that he works with, not in his business, but regularly work together. But it's that connectedness, isn't it? That team, you know, and like you say, the regular thing. So whenever we connect with anyone, it's generally, there's the how are you, there's the bit about daily life in there, as well as the tasks that you're on with, and that's really important. And it's that reach out to somebody just to say, yeah, well, I'm feeling this, how are you doing? You know, and this week's been a very typical example of that with our latest communications and adjustments we got to make.
Communications, yeah.
So the check-in, we have regular check-ins. We've got regular meetings that are check-in. Obviously, it depends on how big your staff is, how that works positively or not. And Zoom can only keep so many faces on the screen at once, you know, but it's important that we do that.
Yeah, definitely. But it's not really all about work though, is it? Because, you know, there are people that have little ones to look after, and you know that they're going to be homeschooling them, and there's some people that feel like they might have to be a bit stronger for others right now. I mean, how do you cope with the pressure and the guilt that some might be feeling trying to balance work and home life?
I think that word guilt has been used quite a lot.
Yeah, I've heard it a fair bit.
And I think we do feel that enormously, even with our team. You know, we're those who are, you know, so we say 100%, 150% go the extra mile all the time, and will feel like they've got to sit. And my wife's team are the same. They've had the same conversations. I don't know whether your team has, but you sit with your laptop and it's, I'm working, so I've got to be sat at my laptop. And is that if I'm not at my laptop, or I'm not set up my office bit for today, what I'm feeling, well, I should be, because that's work. And it's having the understanding as a team of people that we all cope differently, and that actually it's okay to spend some time baking a cake, as we all know, as we talked about. Last week we baked a cake and the webinar didn't go right, so I haven't baked one today.
We blamed it on Ian's cake, why the webinar didn't go well last week.
It's very nice, Kate. We've still got a bit left. Anyway, yes, about how you cope. And like my sister has 2 secondary children. So the pressure point in the house was 1 laptop. We've managed to, and a friend of hers has donated a laptop. So that pinch point of pressure was creating lots of ripples of stress that was unneeded. And now they've both got one to access. Yeah, well, I needed it for this, and that, well, they can just get on with it now. It's made a huge difference to that. And that's how you, and I know, you know, our work colleagues and my friend who's still teaching has young children, it's that pressure of, she's a teacher and has children at home who need her support, and as her and her husband, they run a business of their own as well. So you've got that complete balance, but fortunately,
and everything's
they work from home all the time.
Yeah, there's no separation. It's all in the same space, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and so what I've found really important is routine. And I'm not the first person to say it. I'm not stealing anybody else's. We understand we have a routine. Up, dog out for his wee, breakfast, yoga, and start work. That's just our bag. You know, and I've told yoga to a few people. You know, but
I mean, I've started doing a bit of yoga as well, badly, very badly. But they say that the hardest part is getting there, isn't it?
Getting onto the mat.
Actually, getting onto the mat and actually, you know, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna look really terrible, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's doing something, and it's finding whatever is important to you. So routine is really important to everyone, and that's very important. Like we've just got the 2 of us and the dog, and it's our work time and scheduling that around things. But for people who've got their children as well as work, it's a massively important thing. You've been asked to do this role and take on a role of educator, supporter, of you know, and however that mixture of quality and quantity and reliability of technology to support young people at home. You know, the platform that my niece and nephew use has gone down 2 or 3 times in this whole in the weeks we've been on lockdown, etc. So that doesn't help the frustrations, does it? But getting out and walking, doing some activity, whatever that might be. You know, my mum's over 17, she's still managing to go out and have a walk because she needs that. You know, and that's what we do need, don't we? And being very careful, and this week's been a really good example of that, is that information diet that you have, which, for one of the
I mean,
when do you watch it? When do I watch it? I tend to watch it at 5 o'clock ish if I can. That first 5 or 10 minutes, if there's anything new, okay, watch the first question, realize the second one's almost the same, and I'll just stop at that point because I don't want to get frustrated with it. I just want to keep up to date.
So I was saying the other day, like the beauty of the advancements in tech that we have at the minute and that we're seeing, you know, it's brought us closer at a time when we're physically apart, but it's also giving this information overload. Like it's so easy to just pull your phone out of your pocket and terrify yourself, like looking at the news like these days. And I'm like, I'm especially bad for it. Like I've had to allocate myself, I think, like 20 minutes of worry in the morning and looking at the news and everything. But because otherwise I'll just be on my phone all the time, just looking at the news. And
it go back to the idea of feeling guilt. There's no guilt to saying, actually, well, today I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it today. I'm just going to do my own thing. And I'm going to do that. And it's feeling confident to do that. Listen to yourself. Actually, I don't want to listen to that. Well, okay, I'm saying I don't want to listen to that. Let's not do that for now. Or look at the documents. Sometimes it's easy to read in black and white on .gov what actually is being said, and you can make more sense of that.
Yeah, you can choose it.
It is important to talk about it, and just generally, and like we were saying about the impact that the session, it was great to start the ball rolling. And I'm not good at advertising, but the whole Get Britain's Talking that started last summer on an ITV channel was really, really important at that moment. But it is something that we've never really done as a nation very well. I grew up, I'm nearly 51, and mental health wasn't really talked about in all of my growing up, throughout my career as a teacher as well, and staying in education as I am now. Not at all. Yeah, I lost my father at 14, as you know, to suicide, and that I'm now realizing how that impacts on people. But at the time, nobody talked to me about that. It wasn't about how I was the male left in the house, and for that generation, it was the way that it was handled. Nowadays, that'd be completely different, and it gives me an insight into that. But it's just learning about how to talk, and just the fact that it's okay. And as a male, which is one of the reasons why I'm sat here doing this, and why I with your team. And it was such an interest to me, is because as a male, being able to feel comfortable about talking about how you feel and think about things like that is really quite important. So if that's what's helped, you know, if somebody out of today takes the opportunity to actually talk to somebody else, or actually look at some of the resources and think, actually, oh yeah, no, I felt like that, and that's all. Just one thing like that would make me feel happy, because
Yeah.
somebody's reaching out and looking for something that will help them and get them just looking differently at themselves. We've been far too long with the doors shut.
Yeah. Yeah,
That mental health.
definitely. Well, so you mentioned that there's the resources that we're going to send after this webinar. So I was looking at the coronavirus anxiety workbook. Is that from Mental Health First Aid England?
No, that wasn't. No, that was one of our supporters. So it's the Wellbeing Society.
The Wellbeing Society.
Yeah, I mean, if we just, I mean, we'll just highlight. I know that people can't see it, but I'll just highlight a couple of the things that are in there, just as ideas that we're going to share that people will get to see. Yeah, Mental Health First Aid England have a large amount of resources, and if you just go onto their website and look for the resources for everyone, there are various things that you can pick up on out of there. On the page around supporting your mental health while working at home, we've got that link for you as well. Down there, there's the helpful resources, and that just spreads out into both workplace and home as well. And there are many places to find this. You know, there's another one called Address Your Stress, which is great, a great little, there's an animation to go with it, and then some other resources afterwards. So but the workbook you referred to, people have produced many things, but I went through it and just signposted. It's a great big document in one sense.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's huge. Yeah. There's so much.
Where do you start? But actually, it's just going, well, what matters to you? So there's some distraction activities, for example.
Yeah.
One's about mindfulness. There's a bit about yoga.
It's about. Isn't there a pub quiz? Was there a quiz?
And there's a pub quiz that you can set up yourself. People are already doing that. I know, and internally for our organisation, one of our HQ administration manager, he's running a quiz for people. That's great.
Yeah.
Then there's one about resilience. There's one about improving your social connection. So it links into how you can stay a bit more connected. I know it relies a bit on technology, but some of those ideas aren't always relying on technology.
Yeah.
Exercise guides. And then for those people who ultimately you may feel you need a bit more help, there's a signpost for therapy itself and where else you can get further support. And the last bit we've added on, which is really quite important and relates to what we were saying earlier, and particularly with the elements of my family as well, and my wife's role with behaviour with young people in school, and and actually my sister as well, is that there are some books that help you to talk to young people about the COVID crisis. So the latest one out is by the guy who's the illustrator for the Gruffalo, which some of us will know. As parents, or experienced it already yourself many times. So there's just some links there too that will help with that.
Yeah,
and
I think.
Ultimately, go on.
No, I was just going to say it must be quite difficult. I don't have children, but I imagine it's quite difficult to explain what's going on to children. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, there's one from the Autism Society, one of the Autism Society, so that you can pick that up, helps with that. But yes, it's just how you talk to a young person about it, you know. And sometimes we don't realise how broader-minded young people are, and I think that's a mistake we often make. That actually are very resilient, and then we think, oh no, we can't say that to somebody who's 10. But actually, somebody who's 10 has really good handle on the world. Okay, their way too, actually are quite mature and are able to cope with things. But these three are just three good examples. But you know, you can find lots more in terms of that. And of course, the other bit that goes alongside us getting people to have a go is if you feel like it, and if you want to do more about it, interests you more, there is the opportunity to do some training and get some training on it, which obviously is where we started with yourself. So also at the bottom of that, there is some links to the courses we offer around awareness on mental health, and obviously adult is the current version that I'm able to do. And just to update people, Mental Health First Aid England are like many other providers at the minute. They are shifting their training delivery to be able to be online. So one of the courses is already online. The 2-day adult course is already now being piloted last week and this week. So by the end of this month, we'll have the resources and instructors to then work with that program. They're putting together a new online platform for us to use that will help us deliver out into the community. So yeah, it's all good. It's all going right. It's a positive in the negative, isn't it?
Positives and the negativity.
Focus,
That's why you,
focus on something that can really help everyone. And it's sad that we as a nation have come to this point through something like this to start to really take mental
yeah,
health seriously. But that joining of our mental health and our physical health, as we know, together is so important. And it's just natural. We just never really talked about it that way. We've only ever really talked about, well, if I break my leg, I wear a prop for 6 weeks and it'll fix it. But my head,
yeah,
my inner, my mental health doesn't quite work the same. There's more to that than that.
yeah. Should we, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have a look and see if we've got any questions. Let me see if I can pop this out. There we go. Oh, we've got a couple. So,
Can you post that?
I can read it out to you if you want.
Yeah, never worked.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work, won't
All right.
it?
Don't say always not, won't
So
have
someone,
necessarily have the answer. I can
yeah,
try.
we could try. So this one says we have 3 people furloughed, and I'm concerned about when we bring them back to work, how they will cope. They're all very different and deal with stress differently. What can we do to support them?
Okay, it's a bit like I suppose when you've been off work for say an injury or something like that, or somebody's been just ill, not a mental illness, and typically in the past it's that staged return, isn't it? So there's that
Mm,
meeting, and if they know about their own HR department, if it's as big a company as that, or there's a process to that, and there's lots of guides around that, but that the return to work meeting is really quite important. So that conversation of return to work is coming out of
mhm.
furlough, because coming out of furlough at the moment, taking this week as an example, is the fact that if you've got 2 kids and you're both parents, or live in, if you live on your own with your children, you're being asked to go back to work. What's going to happen with your children? So
Yeah,
there are not only the fact that coming back into a workplace, that's you're trying to reassure them that that workplace is safe and you're going to be supportive, but actually you understand what's beyond the workplace, isn't
yeah,
it? This is something I suppose that a lot of people have found difficult this week, is that, well, okay, if I go, well, I've got, and my shifts end up being overlapped with my partners, where are the children? And school hasn't opened yet. If it's actually childcare, or actually grandma can't have them because grandma's not allowed,
yeah,
those are additional questions. I think understanding the key to that, and having those meetings and getting a grip of together with your employer, who has a duty of your care and your well-being, a duty to you for that, should listen to where you're at. This is what we're hoping to be able to do. This is where I'm at, and bringing that together. There are some resources for line managers, if that's your role that you have, that exist on Mental Health First Aid England, that sort of talks through and just guides through that process from a mental health point of view, as well as that normal well-being pathway that somebody has returning to work. And it's picking up on the anxieties. What are your stress indicators, as you say, and understanding that person. But this is the
yeah,
opportunity to start your talk, isn't it? Start that listening, build
yeah,
that listening environment. If you've not really changed that culture, your business, when I met you, you've already started that a little bit before I came and did some
yeah,
work. But it's here as an opportunity for those businesses who want to just be a bit more connected with their staff. There's a real opportunity to do that, to provide a listening ear and be non-judgmental. That's the most important thing, to just listen to
yeah,
that person. Where are you at? Where are we at? How do we meet that in the middle?
yeah. How can we support you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think being flexible as well is a big thing as well. I mean, we've had some people at Origin that have had to adjust their hours for childcare, and that's been totally fine. And just knowing that you're supported, and when you need the extra help, that's there.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that is really, really important. Is knowing that there's a bit of that trust that, yeah,
mm,
actually my boss is listening to me, or the team I
yeah,
work in. We've had a chance to talk about where we're at. This is what's and the factors that affect me, and then that change. Like you said afterwards, one of the things you did over lunch that day was chat about your little stress indicators and have a bit of
yeah,
banter about it. They go, yeah, well, Emily, you always twiddle your hair when you get stressed, yeah? Or whatever it might be. That sort of thing, isn't it?
yeah,
And but it's knowing those, and it's just feeling comfortable just to share a bit of that helps you
yeah.
feel like who's listening to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've got another question here. Um, Advice for those living alone, especially the very young and very old, who are less likely to have a robust support network or job roles that they're continuing with. So people that are So yeah, do you have any advice for those living alone, especially the very young and very old, who are less likely to have robust support networks or job roles? Do you have any
I
advice
suppose
for
a connection to that is my mum. My mum has a phone, no mobile, no internet, no Wi-Fi, nothing like that.
that? Oh, yeah.
So doing what we're doing now is not an option. So the visual of seeing family members or friends, from her point of view, is great because we've got a few neighbours around her that look after her and touch base with her. Occasionally, I've dropped a few supplies in because I'm allowed to do that and had that time of just a few minutes to talk with her. But we speak to her every day. So it's creating a routine and a routine of extending that network. Who is your network? If it's a work colleague, and if it's 2 or 3 work colleagues because you don't have an extended family, it's that connection. So the ability to connect with other people is the most important bit for that. My sister's ex-partner lives on his own. He is in a vulnerable group with his health. So the contact 3 or 4 times a week that they have, and they get on very well still, and is still my niece and nephew. That's really, really important to him. But he struggles with going out because of that, and that he has no job either at the moment. So.
Yeah.
But for people, that's interesting, isn't it? A younger person, you don't always think about that for them. A younger person's in there.
I think you always assume that they're living with, housemates, or they have, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is an interesting one. I mean, yeah, some people might not have that
And it's how
connection.
much of a network do you have?
Mm.
But there are there are the support networks out there to go
Yeah.
to have somebody just to talk to. For example, there's a scheme set up for the NHS at the moment for the staff that just has an opportunity just to talk to somebody completely different who's just going to listen to you
Yeah.
and take time to be non-judgmental. And that's that, finding that port. And there are out there online. If you've not got a family or friends like that, then there are still people who are, that's their job role,
Yeah.
to do Samaritans, etc.
No, that's really good. There's another one here that says there are lots of endings happening during lockdown. Bereavement is the one people talk about, but there are also the lesser endings like school, college, uni leavers who are unlikely to have had a satisfactory end to their time in those places, and those losing their jobs. Goodbyes are important in so many ways, in so many situations, and people are not able to say or do the goodbye that they need. Never mind the goodbye that they want. So that was another question that we had. Do you have any advice around that? I mean,
yeah. All I can say, totally get that. My son's partner, graduation is in limbo at the minute. She starts a teaching job in Nottingham in the September, all being well. And there was a really special moment on the One Show where they did a graduation for the medical students. And they had all the pictures. So everybody had done their own little video like this, and they were all across the screen on BBC. Amazing little event. But they grasped the nettle because a parent had contacted them and said, "Oh, how's this going to happen?" So all I would say is take a bit of courage and make it happen. So if that person you have a contact with, you link it at uni, for example, ask that. How will the school? Staff. It means a lot to staff. Having worked in education all my life, that matters a lot to staff as well. And the groups of year 6s moving up to year 7 from primary to secondary, those who are going from year 11 into sixth form or to higher ed, or those going from sixth form into uni, are all transition times in people's lives, as the person rightly says. And that closure, not a closure, but it's just a step. And that the prom or the non-prom, as unfortunately has happened, we've been involved in those with our two over the years. It's really important to them. So even if it's a virtual, that does help. It does help. So it's a case, I would say, take the courage to grasp the net and say, what are we going to do about this? And just get a few of them. Once a few of you start to talk, it will pick up momentum. And like it did, Emily, because I've spoken to you, but my daughter's birthday, we got all the people we could and her close friends from school to do videos. And we videoed grandma. We went and videoed her uncle, and that all was put together. And she had that on that day. We couldn't see her, but she saw 20 videos, little short videos together.
Oh, that's
that
really
made
lovely.
us feel like, great, I wish you well. And a couple of her closest friends that she hasn't been able to see, and uni friends as well, who are both working in radiotherapy as well now. It was great, and that made her feel so special because the community was happen. So
yeah,
there's
you
a bit of
need,
advice. Make a graduation happen virtually. You know?
yeah,
But
the hardest part is, organizing it, isn't it? I
yeah,
think, but I think if you, yeah, I think that's
it's getting a
definitely,
few people together, isn't it? Just to think, actually, we'd like to do this. It's like when my son sent me the 5K challenge on, the 26th of April, just before that 5K, get involved in the 26 challenge. Oh, okay. Yeah. And you go, well, okay, I'll do that. So I ended up doing
yeah,
the 5K, ended up doing the Legends sport event that was on. Yeah, get involved in that online. It was just, felt Tin Man for the next few days because, the muscles were. But yeah,
that's like me. Yeah, after a run or a bit of yoga, even going on the exercise bike, it's not good the next day. But well done you on doing that.
yeah, it was quite a busy day that. Yeah.
So we've got some more questions that have come in now. And do we have time? Yeah, we do have time for a couple more. So what we got here? So on behalf of someone I know, I have been signed off with stress and exhaustion because our nursery closed and my husband could not work and look after the 2 children on his own. My boss is talking about a phased return to work next week, but I'm nervous to go back to work at all at the moment. Do you have any advice?
As we said a few minutes ago, I think if she was listening at that time,
Yeah,
that actually that conversation and having that conversation, they have a duty of care to you. You have a right to ask that my environment I'm going back into is safe.
yeah,
And Boris said the other day, he said the same, that should be the conversation that happens, and you
yeah,
are well within the rights to do that. And how do I feel safe? What are your expectations of me as an employee? I think that's really important. So because we haven't mentioned it, we know we sort of have this week. Uncertainty brings anxiety and then confusion sometimes. And that, if you're already thinking, this is a bit sore for me, this is the wound is open, and it's like, well, actually, somebody going, well, actually, coming back in, I want you to do 9 to 12 or whatever it might be, and this is what I'm going to expect to be. This is what we've put in place. But having that conversation, because I think the other thing they'll quickly realise, hopefully, is that their boss, the person who's trying to manage that team of people, is in the same boat they're in. Our boats are different, and one of my colleagues, I'll use her analogy of this. We're all in the same boat, which is often a phrase we use, but I think what we are is we're in boats in the same storm,
yeah,
and our boats aren't always the same.
yeah.
But
I think that's a better analogy. Yeah,
we're in different boats in the same storm at the minute.
yeah,
So I think that I like that really, it's a good analogy. So all I could say to her is have that conversation. And if not, if you don't feel that that person is the first person that you can go straight to, is there someone else within the structure in that your organization that you can say, I'm just feeling, and perhaps they can help with that conversation.
yeah,
If somebody came to me, I'm not the boss, but who felt, well, actually, I'm thinking about this, I feel a bit honest. Would you be able to, or do you want me to help with that? Even
yeah,
if it's that you sat with them at the time, or actually start to have the conversation because they're happy to ask the question, because who's back at work already that they might be able to started to go, but who may be able to actually, yeah, we're doing this, that actually was better than I thought, just to give that little bit of an insight and reassurance. Really, that's
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, yeah. So there's another one here that says, how do you manage the fear of the unknown? So I know for a fact that, sometimes my brain does the Mystic Meg thing where it thinks it knows the future and it makes me really anxious about it. I don't know. Yeah, how would you cope
How do
with
you
that?
manage the unknown? I suppose part of it is you, it's your inner voice, isn't it? How does he or she manage it, or how we envisage them? Yeah, but we all have that inner voice, and it's well, can I do anything about it? That's the one question you can always ask yourself.
Yeah,
I'm worried about that, but actually, can I influence that? Can I do anything about that? No, I can't, because somebody else is asking me to do it. I'm not in any control of that. And this is about it. We used the phrase before in the past, haven't we, about engaging with life, that you feel in some element of control is part of what helps with your mental health. And the minute you lose that, that starts to become more difficult. So the for me, it's the here and now has become more and more important. And we've talked about, haven't we, about the idea of what you really appreciate at the minute, and it's thinking, well, that works for me, that's positive. I don't know that because I can't predict that. And I think that's the difficulty of the situation we're in, aren't we? And amongst all whatever you felt about the conversation that our Prime Minister had with us at the weekend, he did say very clearly, this is an if conversation I'm having. This is an if conversation, and we're all in the ifs. And if we dwell on an if, it'll just become a problem. It's more of, right, well, this is what I'm doing at the minute. This is what I've been asked to do. This is what I feel comfortable doing. And I'll wait for the next bit. And all I can do is, for these 3 weeks or whatever it might be, is do those things and do the things that work for me.
Yeah, just sort of living in the now rather than worrying too much.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Because you can only be in that moment. You can't predict what will be around the corner. And in 3 months' time, we'll be in a different place.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks' time, we may well be in a different place. And I think the whole ifs of, if we feel it's safe, if the science tells us, whatever phrase you want to latch onto at the minute, we know where we'll have some guide, and that whatever decision is made will be based on where we're at that point. And we can't predict it, can we? That's the difficulty of this. We've never ever, you're a lot younger than I am, but we've never ever seen anything like this in our lives at all, ever.
No.
And it's then all our experience you're trying to bring to it to support both yourself and everyone else within that. So you can only work on what I think might happen. I had my views come out, and right, okay, now I've got more exercise, so right, let's make the most of that for the moment. That's where I'm at the minute. I've got more exercise time. I'm allowed to take the dog out twice. It'd be great. Brilliant, let's go out. It'd be great for that, but actually it gets me out twice. And it's not just one longer part of my day or my yoga, it's whatever works for me. And it's just making the most of that. Change my routine for now that works. What's worked for me before will work for me again.
I think just what you know, isn't it? It's what you know. Just keep holding on to what you do know.
And interpretation that's what we are as human beings, aren't we? We always interpret what we want
to. Someone has asked about how to support if you have a family member or a family. Sorry, my brain's gone blank. A key worker. Member of a family member who is a key worker, or a friend that is a key worker. I mean, they might not be asking for help, but how would you?
Yeah, I mean that's well, this is easy for me in one sense. Easy in one sense that I have that experience every day. My daughter works in radiotherapy. She works with patients treating their cancer, whatever they've come with, and they all have often other illness as well, and we've got COVID in the pot too. So for my daughter, it's more about our ears and her eyes. She's got a dry sense of humour, and she'll talk about her days, and you can't help but laugh, but out to her as well. And if she wants any more advice, she'll ask for it. Generally, it's a little, she just shares it on us. No, but I think that offload, as I said to you, we said earlier, she lives on her own. That same own space is really important to her. She has a really nice place to live, and the people around her are supportive as well. They know what she does, but she has her own space. But to get out of that space, it's like we're doing now, and we're sharing with the people that are listening at home, is that ability just to be able to talk and chat, and what we're like. I can talk a bit. It's more about the fact that she's able just to talk, and that conversation can be 10 minutes one day, and Monday night it was an hour and a half, and it just was different, just various things, the little tales of a day, or the frustration that that's just a bit more like it, and she'll just tell you about it. And that's just sometimes, all it's about is just being able to listen and have that somebody just to let that off with, that doesn't need to give you any advice or judgment on it at all. It's just
just listen, just know.
and you have to tell me to shut up. No, but I don't. That's a mob, and if in terms of relationships, I just don't get there as a dad. You just don't do it. You get told when it needs to be told. When you bring it to the house, then I'll be interested in whether it's any good or not for you. But you just when not to ask a question in that sense. Hopefully that helps, to say that's the real everyday experience in our house. And if they're not, I suppose the other bit to add is, if they're not talking to you, it's just when you feel it's right, every now and again, and it's not every single day, that you just put that hand out or put your ear out and say, oh, yeah, anytime you need a chat or have coffee or we'll have a box over a coffee, that's great, you know, just offer. Because you can't force somebody. I mean, there's a lot of psychology behind it. If you keep saying to somebody, you're all right, every time you see them,
Yeah.
am I all right? I start to worry whether I am all right. So it's
Yeah.
just managing that, isn't it? You know, but it's just the offer. That's really what it's
Yeah.
about.
And then I think we got time for one more. Any advice? This is a good one. Any advice about whether the equipment like home office or screens affect well-being and anything that could help? So, you know, staring at a screen for a really long time. We spoke about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we sat there staring at it going, I can't get it to work, Emily. I can't get it to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. When I'm
Yes.
there pulling my hair out, going,
Yeah.
the
So just pick
webinar
it up and
isn't
go,
working.
yeah, off it goes out the window. Yeah, we all, yeah, you can read all sorts of studies around this. Physical health, sitting in a correct position is really important to us. We should know that. Our workplace should know that too.
I'm just checking
But
my posture now.
change your posture, sat up right straight now, aren't you?
Yeah.
But screen time does have a massive influence on us. Not only what we're doing, well, like if I Skype my sister, that's back at the screen if we spend half an hour doing that. But I've already been at the screen for 4 hours or 4.5 hours during that day. We keep telling ourselves here and now at home, because we both, unfortunately, that's the way we have to share sometimes, is that, well, try to break. There are times when you're in a meeting, you can't break that up into 20-minute slots or 25-minute slots. But that's what I would try to advise, you know, do think, right, okay, I'm finishing this task, but then I'm going to get away from it. And it's just being committed to doing that, because you can't always go, well, I'll do half an hour, like we've talked about before. You try and do 20 minutes productivity, spend 5 minutes doing something else, get a coffee or whatever, or actually spend an hour or 2 hours, you've done a meeting, going outside and go in the garden if you've got a garden, or do something physical, or just listen to some music, something else. Try not to read if you've been doing a lot of work with a document or that sort of stuff. So it's just being kind to yourself and equally knowing yourself. That's, I'm feeling okay today, but you know, I wear glasses, as you know, for that short time sometimes, and I just use them to help manage my time with my screen as well, just to take that strain off. And it's when you use the screen, because then if you chill out is a film, you know, you're back on a screen, you know, and we all enjoy.
I spend all day looking at a screen, and then I'll be on my phone FaceTiming my parents or whatever, and then then you're watching a TV show or a movie. So
obviously sometimes at a different distance, and if we've all followed the guidelines and we bought the biggest screen that suits for my eyes, I sit 10 feet away, so I need a screen this big. If we all follow and read, we don't. It just work like that. When you say you sit like this and you end up with a bad neck because you've got your phone screen, it's just changing some of those things, and having to commit to it. That's the hardest thing, isn't it? To break it up.
I think it's really important to just listen to your what your body is saying, because sometimes when you're absorbed in a screen, you don't actually feel your posture, you don't feel what your body is telling you, like, you know, you need to just listen to yourself. And
I've got a dog walking friend here who we occasionally bump into each other now, more often when we weren't in COVID, but I know his other half, they just had a baby, and I've seen her, and we were talking and said, oh yeah, he's really struggling with his lower back. And now he's not somebody who's at home ever working. His work job involves an office work and visiting. It's part of a team that supports families in the county, and he's found, and that will be no doubtably exactly what this question is all about. That you've gone from what your normal physical movement and patterns are through a day to suddenly spending time sat, and that brings the fact that you do perhaps eat a bit more sometimes to go along with that, and you have a few more coffees during that day or one more, and that you then start to, so you're absolutely, and, you know, as we both said, just take that look back and go, yeah, actually I need to do something different. And he might not notice it initially. That's the thing. It's like many things. I teach moving and handling as well, and we talk about this cumulative damage. We do things thousands and thousands of times in our lives, pick that same thing up that way or that way that isn't the best way, and then when we're in our middle age, and it's because I started it when it didn't matter, and I didn't feel like it mattered, never got short, and now it's those things. So it is about, as you say, you realise, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not.
and
Well,
it's all, you know, how your physical health and mental health, it's just your health,
it
you would
is,
say,
yeah,
is the same
absolutely.
thing. So
Yeah,
if you feel physically unwell or something's aching, it affects your mental health, doesn't it? So
it's
I think
massive.
I think that's why I like yoga for like back pain and stuff. I think you feel the connection between, you know, your brain and your body and everything. It's
I think
really,
I've described that to you. I mean, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. I totally get that.
yeah.
But being a sportsman all my life, that, and as I get into middle age now, and I still want to be active, and I am active still, that rewiring almost that yoga provides. And there's
Mm,
all sorts of, there's a range of things you can touch yourself to help with your area, and it's core strength stuff. To just simply following that flow of activities and stretch. And you can do it if you're over 40, and you can do it standing up, you can do it in small spaces. It's all sorts of stuff like that, but it does rewire you, doesn't it? That you have an
mm,
understanding of where you're at, both physically, because it is so important. I've been lucky enough, healthy enough physically, to be able to play sport my life, all my life,
mm.
and even now, and not so much at the minute, but yeah, cricket season is not going to happen, I don't think. But yeah, but it's that sort of thing, and it really matters, and that has been a huge benefit for me socially, physically, all through my life sport. But we all have our own physical thing to do, and I think whatever that is, whether it's you enjoy a walk, or whether you enjoy a swim, or whether you like to do you exercise bike and join in virtually with another team across the country. It's just, there's loads and loads of things, like I've said on the resources, some of the young people who've got involved with the goals at home, for example, off
Yeah.
BBC. There's great things with kids that are 5 or 6 with, wow, look at the skills that lad's got, or that, that girl, look at that, what she's done with that. And it's just get involved in things and just something
Yes,
different. Never tried, or
absolutely.
doing something you've never tried before.
You don't have to be any good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said.
Be a beginner at something. It's yeah.
Yeah, they
I,
say learn
I'm
a new skill.
I'm so glad that no one can see me when I'm doing my yoga, honestly. It's so but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to wrap up now because yeah,
Yeah.
we're oh no. Oh, my clock's wrong. My clock's wrong on my laptop. That's funny. I think we've got time for one more question.
Go on then.
And the sun has decided to
I
try and
know,
blind me. Um,
not
so
again.
we've got one more here. Do you have any advice? I think we touched on this earlier, but do you have any advice on how much information to share with children? My daughter is 5 and is aware of the virus, but I don't know how much to tell her as I don't want to worry her.
Well, I would definitely look at the 2 books that
Yeah,
we've got attached to the resources. Have a read through it and just look at the sort of vocabulary that's used, the words that person is suggesting how you might have a conversation, or the context of having a conversation. At 5, that young person is well aware of washing and
yeah,
cleaning, and that's great. But they're not so good at, well, actually, can we have a hook? That's great at
mm,
home, but outside, that's not appropriate. Well, actually, how close can I get? Because their boundaries are different.
yeah. I
So
think
yeah, I think
my nephew, he's 3, and I think he was getting upset because he couldn't see granddad, he couldn't see nanny, and he was saying, oh, I've lost my granddad, I've lost my nanny, because when he's lost a toy he says, I've lost my toy, but he doesn't know how to say, I miss my granddad, so he says, I've lost my granddad. It's horrible.
yeah,
um but they've told him, that granddad's got a bug in his tummy, and we don't want to catch it, and that's basically what they've said to him as a 3-year-old. But
yeah,
yeah, it's
you should. Well, I should say we know our children as best we know them. And we feel we
yeah,
always feel as parents we know them. And I think at 5, you've got, everything starts to particularly drop into place when we're around about 7. So there are still things to come for that young person. But in terms of hygiene, which is probably one of the main things and why am I not at school? It's
yeah,
that transfer. And there's some great activities we did when I was teaching. We used to do this as well. But I'm sure they can find one online if you looked hard enough. Is where how things transfer,
mm,
and a bit of glittery gel and just go around the house. You don't wash your hands, and then say, right, find the gel. Find the gel. Where will you find that? Where will I go? Well, I must have touched that door. And it's
yeah.
another way of sharing the idea of how germs spread, and in this case, the virus, if that's what we
That's a
need.
good, yeah, that's a really good way to do it.
A nice, we did. I mean, I remember a few kids doing that in assemblies and just communicating what they've been doing in science. But it's just a good illustration of how, and
Mm.
that sort of thing. So It's finding your place. Find the story. They are useful to help you think about your conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, one of them's illustrated by the guy who did the Gruffalo, so it's
Yeah.
pretty. And they're completely free, aren't they? They're free to
Yes, they're
download.
those, yeah, they're just use them in the right way. So if you go onto the links and then just
Yeah.
it tells you what to do about using it the right way and
So
doing
they're
so.
going to be included in the resource
Yeah.
email that we send out. Just a reminder to everyone, if you want those resources sent to you, then there is a website link in the chat box, and you should be able to put your email address in there, and that means I'll have your email address so I can send you those resources. I'm probably going to send them tomorrow to give you all time to add your emails into there.
And the other bit to add to that is that it is Mental Health Week nationally is normally October. That's next week. Next week.
Is it next week now?
Yeah, it's the 18th to the 24th. Well, there is one next week, whether we'll have another one, but it's been brought forward. So there's a little link or two in there in our resources feed, the signpost feed to that. But I'm sure next week there'll be even more available. And all I can say, that's just a tiny set of signposts. And if anything we've got out of you've got something out of what we've talked about today. But from my point of view, as I said to Emily before, as a male sitting here talking about mental health is so important. And that's not because men don't talk about it. It's just as a large proportion you find it difficult to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then next week, there'll be lots and resources exist out there everywhere. And if you've never thought of, well, actually, I'm interested in that. And it might be a sport that starts you off, if that's your thing, or a cookery. There are lots of people now getting involved in helping us start to talk about our mental health.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Ian, for spending some time with us today. I know you're busy learning the new way of doing your training, the online training. But yeah, thank you everyone at home for joining. We hope that helped a little bit. And yeah, make sure that you fill out that form if you want those resources sent to you. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add, Ian?
I think no, and I think we've covered so many things in short space of time, and
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. They know there's so much out there. It's just I hope that I've motivated you to self-reflect, to think about it, listen to your voice inside and others, and give that opportunity that if you are a listener, do that well. Be a good listener.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again, and yeah, take care, everyone. And we hope that helped. All right, see you.
Bye now.